pastor that is going to the Synod Convention this summer. And so we've asked him to come back and talk to us about creation in the Concordia University system.
All right, thank you very much. On this Star Wars Day. So somebody. Oh, there we go. Can you hear me? Yeah, today is Star Wars Day. President Forkey mentioned Star Trek, Star Wars. This is May the 4th. May the 4th. Right?
May the 4th be with you.
And also with you. Very good. Excellent. Anyway, greeting from the Texas District, where our district president, Mike Newman, supports young earth creationism. So he would be in the same category as the 3 district presidents that you've heard speak today. I am so grateful, I don't know about you, so grateful for 3 district presidents from Michigan, South Wisconsin, and Montana, Presidents Meyer, Willie, and Forkey. So that says an awful lot about their commitment to biblical truth and their desire to be here and to represent their districts. So if any of them are still here, thank you for being here and sharing with us. I come from the state of Texas where, unfortunately, I know this isn't about evangelism and missions, but one of the unique things about Texas is that you can't do evangelism there. And the reason for that is not because of any political oppression, but because in Texas, the winters are so beautiful that people can't imagine heaven being any better. And the summers are so beastly hot they can't imagine hell being any worse. So we just can't do any evangelism. Ah, well. Let me just mention also, shortly after President Meyer spoke, President Meyer, Dr. Adams, and I agreed to start talking, mostly by email, about the possibility of pulling some resources together, especially human resources, but maybe some funding, to be able to produce some of the curriculum for Lutheran schools that would be scientific and very supportive of a young earth position. So it'll take some time to get that off the ground, but that's one of the initiatives that's coming specifically out of President Meyer's words, his address to us today. But I also want you to know that we have a person who is present here at this conference who has written 6 different modules that teach science. They're online, if I remember correctly, right? They're online. And so that makes them somewhat widely available. But 6 different modules that come from a young earth perspective and are available for various levels of the elementary ages. And if anybody's interested in exploring that, I mean, she's just really gotten into that the first year where some of this has gotten off the ground. I would invite you to talk to Stacy Lund, who's sitting on the aisle halfway back, and find out a little bit more about what she has to offer, because that might be a partial answer to the concern that was expressed. Let's see, back up. Okay, yeah, there we go. Hit some buttons, some accidentally must have been a down arrow. But anyway, this is my topic. Creation, the CUS, or concerns regarding the teaching of creation in the Concordia University system. I do want to emphasize there are at least 4 key theological points in Genesis 1. I'm not just all about creationism, because there's a lot of other theology that's crucially important to that chapter, as Dr. Adams clued us in on as well, that the God revealed in Scripture is the one who created this vast universe. So we are theists, not generic theists, but we are theists. God created by the power of His Word out of nothing, not by means of some evolutionary process. God created us in His image, so creation has a lot to say about who we are. As Ethel Waters once said, God don't make no junk. Say at the same time, we are fallen creatures, but we haven't gotten to the story of the fall yet when we're reading Genesis 1. So we are created in this image. There is a likeness between us and God. I won't go into the details on that because that's a very complicated subject, but it does mean that there's this connection between us and God. And God created us thousands of years ago, not billions of years ago. Some of you know that Gary Locklear and I, computer science professor at Concordia University of Wisconsin, co-founded the Society of Creation in 2011. And one of the major reasons we founded it, not only because we both had an interest in this topic, but also because it seemed to us that there wasn't much being said in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod on this topic. And if that was the case, and if that continued, we didn't affirm our historic position as a denomination, there are other people who are willing to tell us what we ought to believe, and we would gradually slide into the position, the majority position in culture. We certainly didn't want to see that happen. By the way, on the right side there, that's the homepage of our website for the Society of Creation. So Gary Locklear teaches computer science at my alma mater, Concordia University of Wisconsin. I teach theology at Concordia University, Texas. And I will say we are a single-issue society. We don't get into the wine, women, and song issues where there's a variety of positions throughout the LCMS. And one of the reasons is because as a society of about more than 200 members, if we took a position on lots of these issues, we would end up fragmenting ourselves. So we are focusing like a laser beam on this one topic. In fact, Locklear and I don't even know exactly how we differ, except on one major topic, and that is that he's a San Francisco Giants fan, and I'm a Los Angeles Dodgers fan, and those two teams are one of the classic rivalries in Major League Baseball today. But we won't go any further on that. Anyway, we are a single-issue society. In my humble opinion, in the Concordia University system, theistic evolution, old earth creation, neo-Darwinism are rampant in the Concordia University system. Part of the silver lining in that cloud is that a lot of these presuppositions seldom make their way into teaching in the classroom in a necessary way, because they're operating with a scientific method, so it doesn't get into the classroom a lot, except what little it does is more than it ought to. So I just want to reiterate something I've heard Dean Wenthe say on a number of occasions. If you know of PhD candidates or those with PhD in hand who can teach in the sciences or in theology or probably in any discipline for that matter, give those names to Dr. Wenthe as president of the Concordia University system. He needs to be able to recommend people who can stand with the Synod on the doctrine of creation especially, but in other areas as well, and to be able to help the presidents of our Concordias hire people that will respect the positions of our denomination. Where do we stand at Concordia University, Texas? I'm going to give you a rundown of the number of people who are members of the Society of Creation, originally put together to be a support group for faculty in the CUS schools who support the young earth position. And then we reached about 54 members within the faculties, and then we stopped growing. And I think one of the reasons is because there are some faculty, especially younger faculty, who don't want to go on record publicly. They're afraid, whether they are supportive or not, that it will somehow affect their ability to continue to teach there. They don't want to jeopardize their future careers. Some of them are evolutionists, some of them are creationists, and they don't want to go public with it because they're not sure what that means for their future. So we have 16 members of the Society of Creation at Concordia University, Texas, and so I'm going to give you numbers of others at other institutions in one of the next slides. Back up a little bit there. At my home institution, we have an annual lecture on creationism every February, and we just finished the 11th consecutive year. Danny Faulkner, an astronomer from Masters in Genesis, came and did a series of lectures on our campus and then came to my home congregation. But I tell you that about Concordia University, Texas. One of our biology faculty, about a decade ago, he's still on our faculty, made the comment over a noon meal that he considered Darwinian evolution to be a fact, not just a theory, a hypothesis, but a fact, as certain a viewpoint that is out there in the scientific world. shocked me a little bit, but I wasn't as bold then as I am today. Much more recently, another member of our biology faculty, who is still on our faculty, made the comment in a chapel, I'm not sure if it was a chapel service, but it was in chapel. She said that evolution was the method that God used to bring about the creation of our world. A few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I was invited to be a part of a search committee that had two science faculty, a kinesiology faculty member, and myself on the search committee. And so we were working through all these resumes and selecting the most qualified people to interview. We did some telephone interviews. And I'm in this telephone interview with an individual from a university in the East who is a creationist. He had the best resume of any of the candidates before us, at least in my opinion. And we're talking with him, and one of the two biologists who are both evolutionists asked the question, so something like this, what do you think about origins? And he was going to be frank and honest, and he said, well, I'm a creationist, and explained a little bit about that. He's respected by his colleagues, but that's his position. And we concluded the interview not too long after that, and the one biologist who was an evolutionist turned to the other biologist who was an evolutionist and said, I don't think he has the broad enough background in order to teach what we need him to teach. And from that moment on, he was off the charts. He was not considered anymore. And it was about a week later, I sent my resignation, and I said, you know, you don't really need me on this committee. I think I was just the token conservative, so they'd be able to say, yeah, we have a theology guy on our committee, but they had two evolutionists, and the third person was willing to go along with whatever they thought, and then there was me. So I knew I would be outvoted. So things aren't exactly rosy at Concordia University, Texas, even though we have 16 members of our faculty who stand publicly as young Earth creationists. Well, most of them public. There are a couple of them that are concerned about their future, and so they asked me to keep their names confidential. And how this works is once a majority of the science faculty are committed to theistic evolution or Darwinian evolution at that university, then they simply perpetuate where they are, and it seems to me that a lot of our Concordias are in that same position. I had a friend who used to be on the faculty of Concordia Portland. A few years back, I asked him if we were getting this society started, so that we started in 2011. I'm contacting everybody I know from every one of the Concordias, and I asked him, was there, I think he's retired now, I asked him, who among the faculty would he know of that was a young Earth creationist? And he said he didn't know of any on the Concordia Portland faculty. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there aren't any, but there certainly aren't any that were known to him at that time, and that gives me some cause for concern. I was at a conference at Concordia University, Irvine, a few years ago, and I heard a survey being presented. I'm going to give you a snapshot of that survey that was done by a Concordia University science professor that surveyed the viewpoints of Lutheran high school teachers all across the country. And some of the people I met there, I had some concerns about their commitment to creationism and the historic position of the LCMS. I do want to say that in my opinion, as best I know about the Concordia University system, the two shining stars in terms of support of our historic position are Concordia Ann Arbor and Concordia Mequon. So a tip of the hat I would give to those two institutions and their science and theology faculty. I can't run down and say where everybody stands. I don't know that. Nobody's ever offered that kind of detailed information, but I do know how President Meyer operates in the Michigan District with Concordia Ann Arbor, and I do know that President Pat Ferry, the president of Concordia University, Wisconsin, is one of the members of our Society of Creation, so that says some significant things about him and about Concordia University, Wisconsin, where Dr. Locklear, my co-founder, teaches, and which has hosted 3 or 4 of the first 7 creation conferences that we've held annually since 2013. So in the Concordia University system, as I said, Austin, we have 16 members with a faculty of about, I don't know, 60 full-time people, and I'm convinced that there are some who are supportive but just don't want to go public with that, and some newer faculty members that I just haven't asked where they stand. It's a difficult thing for them, it's a difficult thing for me to do, but these are the ones that are with us. Concordia University, Wisconsin is the largest contingent. They have the largest faculty, of course, 28 members, and these two numbers are the largest because Locklear and I are on those two faculties, and we know a lot more about where the faculty stand and can talk to people one-on-one about being part of the society. Concordia Ann Arbor has 5, but they are a much smaller school, and like I said, I consider them to be the leading light in terms of support of our historic position as in the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. Portland, one person who's actually identified with Portland is no longer there, so this is somewhat dated. Probably that number needs to go back down to 0, but you know, once a member of the Portland faculty, always a member of the Portland faculty. At Concordia Irvine, undoubtedly a lot more than the one whose membership I have. I would love to have more people identified to me as members, as people who support the historic position of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. I only know of one, don't know of any at Bronxville. I know of 2 at Concordia University Chicago. It seems to me that's another situation where there are a lot more that are supportive of our position. But some people don't want to take that public stand, and there are a variety of reasons for it, I suppose. Some of them legitimate, and some maybe not all that legitimate. At Concordia University, Nebraska, these figures are somewhat old now, because some of these people have probably moved on. One at Concordia University, Nebraska, and at least one at Concordia St. Paul, and that gives us about 54 who are members. So just take a little bit closer look at a couple of things that I saw from Concordia University, Nebraska. That's part of their campus. A few years ago, when I was in full-time administration in Austin, an employee of Concordia University, Nebraska made a comment to me. Somehow we were talking about creation, you know, that's an interest of mine. So we were, and he made the comment to me that there wasn't a single science faculty member at Concordia University, Nebraska who was a young earth creationist. And I thought, well, that's a little bit different, a little bit unusual, a little bit odd, being LCMS school. But hopefully, I'm thinking, hopefully, an old earth creationism I don't agree with, but it's far better than theistic evolution. And then comes along this John Jerkin article, summer of 2017, The Age of the Earth and Confessional Lutheranism. I'm not going to say a whole lot about that. But in an addendum in the winter 2018 issue, he says, I hold and teach that a young earth creation perspective of 6 normal days is taught throughout the clear Word of God. And I read that, and I read it again, and I read it again, and I asked myself, okay, John, what do you believe? You believe that a young earth perspective of 6 normal days is taught throughout that, the Word of God teaches that. And you teach that the Word of God holds to that young earth perspective. What do you believe? I mean, why didn't he say, I believe the young earth creation perspective? And one of the reasons why I raise some questions about this is that he and a colleague of his attended our first annual creation conference at Mequon in 2013. Neither of them are members of the Society of Creation, and I'm pretty sure both of them were on the faculty of Concordia University, Nebraska, when this employee of that institution said to me, you know, there's not a single young earth creationist on the science faculty at Concordia University, Nebraska. So I'm trying to parse this whole thing and understand, okay, where does John Jerkin stand? And it makes some sense to me that he wrote what he did write in that summer issue of the Concordia Journal. That there wasn't a clear, strong statement as to what he actually believed. This is the summary of the study that Dr. Brent Royuk did of 179 Lutheran high school teachers in 2009. I think he's the one that did it. This appears on one of the links of his website, so you can find this summary at royuk.com, if I remember correctly. This was done in 2009, and these are the results that showed up at that Concordia University Irvine conference that I attended 6-8 years ago. And there's both good news and bad news. In fact, I take a good deal of encouragement from this, that among the LCMS schools, 58.1% of the teachers at these schools hold to the young earth creation perspective. So you see the left-hand column of the 4 columns, 21.8% intelligent design, 2.4% the compartmentalist view, which holds that science deals with nature, theology deals with the Bible, and they're two distinct languages. Leave scientific pronouncements to the scientists, and don't you theologians get involved in that. In other words, in my way of thinking, rule out the creator of science and everything that science studies from having a voice in what goes on in the scientific world, and then let the theologians deal with their field, which sort of perpetuates this common cultural belief, like Nancy Percy of Houston Baptist University talks about, the fact-value split that's attributed to Immanuel Kant and David Hume, that there's a world of facts, we can count on that, science, math, and the like, and then there's a world of values that's much more flexible, much more opinion, set of beliefs, you can't really be sure about any of those things, and art and music and poetry and religious belief would fit into that category. The last category is the complementarian view that I guess I don't fully understand, but it believes that there's no necessary conflict between science and religion or science and Christianity, but that you can have young earth creationists in that perspective. You can also have Darwinian evolutionists holding to that viewpoint as well. But these are the summary results of, in table form, of what Dr. Brent Royuk put together. He who, along with John Jerkin, were at our first creation conference. So my big overview of the Concordia University system is that there is young earth creationism that's strong at Concordia University, Wisconsin, our largest and best endowed university, and Concordia University Ann Arbor, that's now in a sense, part of Concordia University, Wisconsin. I thank God for what the CUW people did to partner with CUAA and to reestablish the strength of that school. Its enrollment is growing in one of our largest and most important districts. Well, I shouldn't say most important, they're all important. Probably old earth creationism that is held at Concordia University, Nebraska, but I can't really say that with any kind of certainty. If somebody was taught Darwinian evolution at Nebraska in the 1980s, I don't know, but I do know that one of the members of the science faculty at Concordia University, Nebraska became the dean of our College of Science in Austin, and I'm pretty sure she was an old earth creationist. So that I extend that, and having had some conversations and emails with Brent Royuk, I think that's probably where he's at as well. There's plenty of Darwinism and neo-Darwinism that's taught in the Concordia University system, in my opinion. I can't say this, I don't have hard and fast rules and data to support this, but this is the impression that I have. There's a fair amount of support for theistic evolution, and actually the third and fourth bullet points, I say, first of all, based upon my own experience with biology faculty at my university. And I suppose if our admissions officers were hearing me speak, they'd say you're convincing people not to send their kids to Concordia University, Texas, and don't say that, but I'm afraid I need to say what's actually going on. So And I don't think we're all that much different from the rest of the Concordia University system, apart from Mequon and Ann Arbor. But you see that picture of the Concordia, or the International Center of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. As far as I can tell, young earth creationism is still in the minority in COW. I believe that the historic position of the LCMS, I tend to refer to it as that young earth creation is our historic position. I don't think you can say with accuracy that it is the official position of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, although we're as close to that as possible, and I'm hoping that a resolution or two gets passed this summer that will make it possible for us to say that. The definition of the word day hasn't been spelled out in any of the convention resolutions that I looked at over the last 50 years, even though that wasn't an issue in 1932 when the brief statement was adopted, and everybody understood what day meant. Everybody held to the same position, well, not everybody, but almost everybody, and Synod and Convention believed that the age of the earth was thousands of years rather than millions or billions of years. And so it was only later on that people started reinterpreting the word day to mean some sort of nondescript long period of time in order to allow either old earth creationism or theistic evolution to creep into the LCMS and our understanding of origins. So I just want to say something about the conference that's happening in St. Louis on June 14 and 15. Under the theme, Thousands, Not Billions, How Old is the Earth? Our two keynote speakers are Terry Mortensen and Andrew Snelling, who come to us from Answers in Genesis. And this is the topic, the age of the earth, how old is the earth? And Dr. Locklear and I are also going to be speaking at this conference, but Snelling and Mortensen will be speaking. I know most of you are from Denver, in the Denver area, but if that's a possibility for you, I would invite you to attend, invite Dr. Adams to attend, let you attend free of charge, no cost whatsoever. You sign up, I'll make sure you get in no cost for that. Since you live locally, there won't be any other costs involved in that. But I also do want to say that I have specifically asked both President Dale Meyer and Charles Aaron where they stand personally on their belief about creation. I think you need to know this, that both of them said that they hold to the young earth position. I got a personal handwritten letter from President Meyer. And so in terms of their personal beliefs, I want to affirm that and state that and share that with you. At the same time, I want to go on and note that Concordia Theology provided a document. I've got a copy of it in my laptop folder where it cites the brief statement from 1932. And again, the word day didn't need to be defined. We teach that God has created the heavens and the earth by His almighty word and in 6 days. But I've heard some say, well, yeah, what does the word day mean? Even though when this was adopted, everybody understood what the word day meant in this context, just as we understand, we really do. If we don't come to the text with a bias, we do understand what the word day means in the first chapter of Genesis. On December 5, 2017, and trying to deal with these articles in the Concordia Journal, Dr. Aaron said, I believe that it was this type of question on the age of the earth that Dr. Jerkin thought to address. In other words, must one subscribe to a specific age of the earth, as for example, that it was created in 4004 BC, the Bishop Ussher chronology, or is 6,000 years old, in order to be considered an Orthodox Christian, presumably a Lutheran? His paper thus surveyed various synodical statements to determine if we as a synod had adopted a position on that question. In other words, must one subscribe to a specific age of the earth, as for example, that it was created, etc., to be considered an Orthodox Christian? So, I don't say that creation happened 4004 BC, but I think under 10,000 years, probably significantly under that, is the age of the earth. And so we're talking about a huge difference between those that believe that the earth and the universe are thousands of years old versus millions or billions of years old. Dr. Aaron went on and said, lest anyone wonder as to where we stand on that issue, I can unequivocally say that not a single person on our faculty, as well as Dr. Jerkin for that matter, advocates for a day-age interpretation of Genesis 1. I appreciate that. I also appreciate what Dr. Adams said earlier, that there's not a single member of the Concordia Seminary faculty, as far as he can tell, and knows them fairly well, who denies that creation took place in 6 24-hour days or 6 natural days. So I'm reflecting that accurately. Okay, excellent. So that's what they don't believe. We don't advocate for a day-age interpretation. And I guess what I'd like to ask is, what do they believe, or what do you believe? It's fine to say what you don't believe. One member of that faculty tried to talk me out of including young earth indicators in my book, In the Beginning God, that I got a few copies of at the back. On another occasion, the seminary referred L.W. Lutheran Witness to me for an article on creation, rather than asking one of the faculty of the seminary to do that. It seemed like it would have been best for a seminary professor to write that article rather than a lowly college professor. But at any rate, I did write the article. I'm wondering why that didn't happen. I would love for one of our seminary faculty to, now I'm not picking on David Adams here, but you shake my finger, because I know that what my schedule is like in Austin, and I can imagine that it's at least that busy and more so at the seminary level. So, but what a powerful statement it would be for a Concordia seminary professor to write an article in support of the young earth position of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. He goes on to say, we all believe that the most natural and plain reading of day, especially in light of Exodus 28, is to regard it as an ordinary day. To that end, Dr. David Adams and I prepared a paper that we hope will be of use regarding the Genesis account of creation, some of the specific exegetical issues mentioned in Dr. Jerkin's article. It is forthcoming on concordiatheology.org. And a little bit later on this, is this the paper? A few reflections on creation, Genesis 1?
I don't remember
referring
what
to.
Charles ended up naming it. I assume so. Yeah. To be honest, Charles and I had lunch, and met a couple of other times to talk about things. And I wrote some stuff for him that he then took and kind of compiled into the final thing. So he was the primary author of the final thing, although I contributed a lot of material to it. So the phraseology is primarily his,
But the substance of it is probably primarily yours?
Well,
Or maybe both of yours?
probably, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference, but go ahead.
Because he did tell me that young earth was the position that he held.
Yeah.
So this is what Adams and Aaron collectively wrote on Reflection 3. How old is the earth? Although the scriptures do not give a specific age to the earth or a specific date for its creation, the scriptures portray a world that has been created in the relatively recent past, that is, within a historical span of time measured in thousands of years rather than millions or billions of years. So I'm really concerned about making sure that I don't make accusations against the seminary or some of its faculty when we haven't had these kinds of conversations, especially face-to-face conversation, and especially in light of a statement of this sort. I do have a few questions I would love to ask Charles Aaron, and I guess I still could because I got his email address, about that science grant and who it is that's administering that, and the way in which he has approached origins and some of his presentations of the alternative views, partly for the sake of educating people out there in the church, partly for the sake of being a Christian gentleman, but it also seems like at times like he's saying there's this view and there's this view and there's this view, and I don't want to offend anyone, and so you all pick the one that you'd like to adopt, and without saying here's where I stand because this is where my denomination stands, and this is what I think is the strongest exegetical position for any Christian to hold who takes seriously the authority of the Word of God. So most of the stuff that I think about Genesis 1, I shouldn't say that, at least a lot of the key things that I say about Genesis 1 appears in this book. I brought a few copies of it there in the back for sale for $5. This is what the cover looks like. Out of CPH, so I thank CPH for publishing this, and I think I need to stop right now and allow us to move on with our schedule. Thank you for your kind attention.